Hello everyone, this is sort of a impromptu video topic that I've decided to go ahead and make. This is something that has sort of been brought to my attention recently and something that I've just kind of wanted to cover just as a free time little warm-up event for when I decide to finally get around to making the next review video, as I've been very busy lately and I've also been very sick, so I haven't had the time to make a more thorough video, like the Fuckyland review one. So today I'm going to be talking about how to keep cool in terms of people like criticizing your games, how to be, just a little bit more professional when it comes to game development, because this is a problem that I've seen even good friends of mine do, and I sort of wanted to just make a video. Hopefully this will help you guys out, maybe even you more experienced ones. And if you're new, I highly encourage you, hopefully a lot of this advice will help you out, and hopefully you'll learn something new and it'll help you be a better developer. So essentially the topic of this video again is going to be keeping cool on, in situations where people are basically critiquing your game, maybe a little bit overly so. And what I mean by that is we always have seen those people that are like really thorough when it comes to their reviews. And, I know that not everyone is the best in terms of giving thorough critiquing. I've seen a lot of people go overkill. I've seen people practically insult the developer for dumb decisions that they made in their games. So I basically just wanted to say these things only bother you personally as a dev as much as you let them. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but the simple matter of the fact is that the vast majority of the time, the people that are reviewing your games, they're, for the most part, they're pretty much complete strangers. You may know them, perhaps you've talked to them before, perhaps they've told you that they're going to review your game and talk about it a little bit, but for the most part, you don't really know them, as a person. 99% of the people that you're going to interact with, especially online, are going to be complete strangers, and I suppose it reaches that territory where you're like, why do you care so much about what a random stranger thinks about your game? And I know that sounds weird because obviously feedback is something that I think is always a biggest fear for many developers. I myself have felt it several times, especially for a game like Eve that I spent 4 years on. I was extremely nervous about what people would say about it because I just, when you've spent a really long time on something and you've put so much time, so much effort into making it good, and then you have someone who plays like 10 minutes of it and they're like, wow, this is bad, or I can't believe the developer was like so dumb that they overlooked it. It's very easy to kill someone's motivation to continue developing, because you have people that just assume that every developer knows what good game design is. And the simple matter of the fact is nobody starts off knowing what they're doing. That's the truth. I started off having zero experience, having zero idea of what proper game design is. The simple matter of the fact is that everyone starts off as a novice. We have situations and we have plenty of people that don't know that all these quality of life features that most games have these days, they might not know about them. They may not know about the heal on level up mechanic. They may not know about party members scaling to your main character's level. That is something that really only recently people have known about, so I don't blame these old people who have only played the old games and haven't really ever played any newer entries within the last few years. I don't blame them for not understanding why modern games are like so beloved and seen as such high quality, because they just aren't used to that. They just have not played anything remotely close to the standard of quality that these modern games, or at least most of them, seem to have. Uh, but anyway, back on the topic of how to deal with it. When it comes to just criticism, you just have to understand that, you know, when people critique your games, the vast majority of the time, they're not trying to make it personal. They're just frustrated because, and I'm very guilty of this as well. I get frustrated by bad gameplay, by bad mechanics being thrown in just because the developer wanted to try and experiment. I think the worst thing you can do, especially as a new developer, is just practically throwing darts in the dark trying to hit a target that you cannot see. To me, that is the equivalent of experimenting and not really trying to get anything. You're at that point, you're really just hoping to see what works. That is one of the worst things I think somebody can do. And that's something that makes me frustrated, because to me that shows the developer, that the dev, I'm sorry, didn't really plan anything out too well. They just have everything out on a whim, they wing everything, and there isn't really a concrete plan. And the best games are ones with plans. To really grow as a developer, you have to learn how to plan. You have to learn how to properly pace yourself. You have to learn, okay, what are things that work and what are things that just don't? What does the vast majority of the community see as something that's good, and what do most of them see as something that's, a negative? The biggest thing is to, one, understand, why do you care so much about a stranger's opinion? The second thing is never take a critique against you personally. At the end of the day, you make a game, the people are going to play it. You have to understand that people are always going to not like something that you've made. Even with Eve, there are people that do not like it. And that's fine. People can have their opinions. Even though I will defend the game on reasons that I think are not right, I have, so just as an example, a few weeks ago, this guy said Eve had bad elemental system gameplay or whatever, and the guy only played like probably an hour. It's one of those things where you can't accurately judge a game if you played the very tippy top of the iceberg and you think you've experienced almost the entire thing, right? Or I've seen just people say that, oh, the game is just boring, I don't like it. And while I won't personally understand why they have those thoughts, even though they've tried to articulate them, I'm not insulted personally by it, because I understand that these are just people, these are just completely random strangers. They don't know me, I don't know who they are, and I just leave it as that. Now, I understand that if someone with more of a backing, I suppose someone with more history, like myself, for example, reviews your game, there may be a bit more emotional investment into a game like that, because you have someone who's a lot more experienced giving you feedback and being, perhaps to a fault, being brutally honest about things that they don't like. And I understand, for a lot of people that is something that can hurt emotionally. Trust me, I know what that feels like. There are people that have played my games, I knew them. I always felt like they were someone who were a lot more talented than I was, and they would give very brutal feedback on my games and said that they didn't like it, they hated this part, this needed to be changed. It's very easy, I think, to get emotionally invested into something that, is really at the end of the day, the vast majority of reviewers they just want to help you. Now, while some could definitely do better on their wording, it's a situation where you kind of just have to really just try to ignore it. You have to zen your way through any kind of negativity that you think may be directed your way. Even if a critique has someone who, you know, maybe it comes off that they're personally insulting the dev for like being an idiot because they dared to include something that they thought was so bad it was dumb. Um, a lot of the times, those people do have legitimate criticisms about things that are bad, and it really becomes a skill of wading through, you know, things that don't really matter to get to something that you can, you know, actively change to make the game better. Even if that person who reviewed your game has no intention of ever coming back or playing the game again, there will always be somebody new who plays your games. Always. 20 years from now, there will always be somebody brand new, never played any of the rest of my games. They'll play BDS for the first time, and they'll give feedback on it. It still happens even today, 9 years later after I made that game. People still do it. Now, I'm at the point where I could not care less about what anybody says about that game. I understand that for a lot of people, that is very difficult to do. And I just want to say that I am with you in that regard. And that I fully understand the emotional baggage that comes with people reviewing and critiquing your games. With that being said, I just want you to know that those people do not mean it personally. They simply want your game to be better. Now, obviously, you can disagree with those people on what makes your game good and what will make it worse. It's perfectly fine. At the end of the day, we're people, and we all have our own thoughts and feelings on what we like and what we don't. The simple matter of the fact is that it's, you know, I kind of hate to say it like this, but it's a lot like really good politics, where really good politicians, the ones that I like at least, they know how to debate with each other, but actually see eye to eye and understand each other's viewpoints. Especially now in the modern age, we live in a day where people are so polarized on different viewpoints, where if you don't personally agree with me on what I like, then you are inhuman, or you are a freak of nature, or you are just a complete moron. And now more than ever, I think we need more people that are willing to just reconcile on issues, even if they aren't necessarily a big deal. Now, on to the second point I wanted to get to, which is professionality. This is something that I've seen even really good friends of mine do, which is practically taking your frustrations out on other people by using your game to do it, rather than going out publicly and just announcing it in like a chat or through a video or something. For the sake of privacy, I'm not going to be name dropping any particular person that has done this in the past, but you've seen this. Anyone who's been in the community for at least more than a few years, and even new ones really, they have likely witnessed a game or a playthrough that someone was doing where the developer of that game practically personally attacked people just because the dev had an argument with someone that they didn't like, or the dev, you know, they knew somebody in real life that, you know, was like a really big point of stress for them, and their game was sort of their way of name calling them. Perhaps they thought it would have zero repercussions. And the simple matter of the fact is, you know, even when I was a very, very new developer, I was brand new, never touched RPG Maker, I knew that if I ever made a game for the public, there needs to be a sense of professionality. You cannot personally attack people in your game. That is one of those things that just makes me as a fellow developer lose respect for you. I've seen people use save points to take subtle jabs at developers for things that they did 3 or 4 years ago, or they had an argument with them, you know, last week, so they said, okay, I'm gonna put you as a boss fight in my game, for example. we have to start moving past that. And the fact that people still do that even today, even in modern standards, is really surprising. But this isn't me trying to take a jab at those people. I want to help them. Look, I understand. We get angry. We get frustrated sometimes with just game development and stress, and people piss us off sometimes. People will give us, and this sort of loops back to the criticism issues. And as I have seen this done as well, I have seen someone give a critique on somebody else's game, and in that game in a later update, they practically made fun of the people who critiqued their game, because they just thought either their critique was dumb or they hated the person who did it, whichever such reason. At the end of the day, I get it. This is a FNAF B series. It's dumb. It's not always supposed to make a lot of sense. It's supposed to be funny, but there still needs to be a sense of not personally attacking other people or even taking subtle jabs at like people's criticisms, things like that. I know that sometimes those are just the devs' way of trying to be funny. It could be an attempt at getting back. The simple matter of the fact is, and really probably take a drink at how many times I've said that in this video already. But I personally do not condone that in any way. Offending people on a personal level, really upsets me, because I think people know that it's bad to do that, but they still do it anyways, because they just want their friend group to get a laugh out of it. The important thing to note, though, is that I understand the hatred that people have for each other sometimes. There have absolutely been moments where I wanted to attack somebody because they did something that really pissed me off, but I always ask myself, and really I think this goes for a lot of different things, but in this particular scenario, I always ask myself, why? Why would you do something? I think that is the single biggest question you can ask yourself as a game developer. Why would you add something? I see a lot of people do things purely off of emotion, or purely because, oh, I think this will be funny, so I'm going to add it. Always step back and ask yourself, why? That single question has prevented me from making so many mistakes that I would probably be seen as a completely different person. And this is what I mean when I say that people do not understand you personally when they critique your games. Yes, people know who I am, they know my name, and they know the games that I've made, but the vast majority of you, I would reckon, do not know me personally on a level. Emotionally, you guys do not understand the baggage that I go through on a daily basis, and I do not plan on indulging those things to everyone either. But really what my main point is that stopping yourself and asking why would you do something, I think, is a good way to prevent yourself from making a big mistake that you'll regret later. And I'm really glad that I stopped someone that is a good friend of mine. I stopped them from making a big mistake that very likely could have gotten them practically exiled from the FNAF B community as a whole. And some people may know who I'm talking about, but I reckon a lot of you don't. And for me, that's fine enough. And I think what really could have prevented that from happening in the first place was if they asked themselves, why? I get it. You get mad, you get frustrated, and you get sad by people and things that have hurt you. And it's very easy to take your frustrations out by using your game as a proxy way to do that without coming off as basically without making it a call out post on like an online forum, for example. But really all you're doing is, one, you're just confusing people that don't really have a clue as to what you're talking about. And two, it's really a good way to ruin your credibility and respect as a game developer. Um, that's the type of thing that, you know, there's a reason that the Chikazu Chronicle excursion, there's a reason that the special hate section is so infamous, because it personally attacks people that the developer doesn't like. But I have seen people who think that they are way beyond that, have they have made that same mistake. And while something like that is not public, it's still, in my opinion, it's still very indicative of a person's character. But I want to say that there is help, and that I am here for those people if they want me to be there for them. This video is really just sort of my outlook on it. I understand that people get emotionally attached to things that have really hurt them in the past, and so they use their games as a way to let their anger out. And I also understand that it's not always for the worst of intentions. It's very easy to make a mistake and immediately regret it after the fact. I just want to say I am here for you in the case, or in these, oh my goodness, in the situation that, in the case you are in that situation. I just want those people to take a step back and take a break. Emotionally and mentally, games can be very stressful. They can be very taxing. And it's very easy to put things in that you should not be doing. And I just want to say to those people, it's very easy to get mad. It's very easy to make mistakes that will get you into trouble, but you don't care because you're so mad, or you think that those people ultimately deserve it for the harm that they've caused you. I want to say that you are better than people that insult you personally. And again, as I've also said, why do you care so much about random strangers, about people that you really don't know? I think these things only bother you as much as you personally allow them to bother you. I am not trying to act like I am above, being a person like this, because I have absolutely had thoughts where I wanted to personally go against somebody. I wanted to put them as a fight in a game because I didn't like them. I did not like something that they did. But really, you have to be a better person. Games are like an extension of you, I see them as. Especially, and this may sound silly, but FNAF games really are, I think you make them not only for an audience, but you make them emotionally as well. They are sort of an aspect of someone's character. I have known people who have made more depressing games because they have, or I should say, they were going through a depressing phase in their life, so their game sort of reflects their state emotionally as they were at the time when they were making it. That is a situation I understand, and I know why people make games like that. I've done it before as well. I've put things in my game because I personally was emotionally moved by something at that time, so I put it into a game sort of as a reflection of my personal emotions. And I don't think that is necessarily always a bad thing, but we have to be professional in the way that we do it. It's very easy to attack or offend people. You have to understand that you don't know who's going to play your game. A 10-year-old could play your fan game. And yes, this is a series that is more so catered for an older, more mature audience, but I guarantee you that the vast majority of the people watching this video, and myself included, we were introduced into this series when we were minors. I was 16 when I found out about this series, and I know a lot of you were likely 12, 13 years old, maybe even younger than that. And we have to understand that even though that we are older now, there's still people out there that have replaced us in terms of the age gap. There is a new group of 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And you have to understand that those kids, there's a chance that they will play your game. And the reason that it is such a problem to have a sake of professionality, a sake of importance to have it, is because you don't want to give a young person the wrong impression of what a game series is like. I have played games where the developers completely get the humor and the charm, I guess. I put that in quotation marks because I think it can be interpreted in different ways. But there's a reason that it's so important. And that is, we're going to give these children the wrong idea of what this series is like. And you could even emotionally and personally hurt people by putting things that, while yes, they may have been acceptable 20 years ago, the simple matter of the fact is that times are different. People are more emotionally attached to certain topics than they used to be 2 decades ago. And we have to understand that. I think the biggest skill a person can have is adaptability. Knowing how to adapt and change to their changing environment. Not only can this be applied to game developing, but real life situations as well. You have to know how to adapt and how to change to fit the ever-growing, ever-morphing climate that our current day finds itself in. I know I've sort of went off on a tangent, so I just want to give my points in this video a brief rundown, a brief recap for the people who have watched to the end. The biggest thing that I've seen when people have, when a dev gets criticism, is that they take it personally. And I want those people to ask themselves, why do you care so much about what this random person has to say about your game? You have to understand that not everyone is going to like what you do. Not everybody likes what Eve did, and I've accepted that. I don't necessarily always agree with those people. And I don't always understand their points of view, but I do understand that people have their opinions. People have their own thoughts, and people like what they like, even though I may not necessarily agree with them on what's good and what's bad. And I think as a dev, really growing as one means that you know what kind of criticism is good, you know what kind of criticism is bad, but you never take a review or a critique against you personally as a developer. Everyone makes bad games. It happens. We all make mistakes. But you can't take it personally. You have to emotionally move past it and say, okay, this is bad. This wasn't as good as I thought it was. But that's why these people review your games in the first place. Because they care. They want your game to be better. They want you as a developer to learn and improve. And you should take it as that, even though the way they may frame it sometimes does not always make it come off that way. And I really want people to try at least to understand that and realize that not everything that someone has to say about you or your game is always an attack on you personally. And the second thing I want to go back to is being professional. It's very easy for us to get emotionally attached to a game, especially if we've spent a long amount of time on it, or we are going through a particularly stressful part of our lives and people still get attacked because perhaps people did not look at their game as fondly as they would have liked, or perhaps they were in a competition of some kind and they did not agree with the outcome. I have seen that. And I want people to understand that things do not always go our way. Things happen that we dislike. There are people that have done things to us that we dislike, but there are better ways to cope with those emotions than by personally attacking those people or by putting them in your game in a way that makes it derogatory. I understand that for some people that is a stress relief mechanism, but I also want you to understand that there is a repercussion to doing such things, and that doing so, you are inviting a risk that really is up to you. It is a risk that is up to you if it's worth taking or not. I am never, as a person, ever going to say that you cannot do something. Even though I will not agree with you necessarily on everything that you decide to do, I obviously do not have the power to stop you. But I want those people to understand that there are repercussions for doing something, even if you do not personally see it that way. It's very easy to lose respect, even if you do not think you deserve to do so. However, ultimately, what I really want you to get out of this is that there are resources and there are people here to help you. This is just sort of my take on making this, or at least making my take on this public awareness. I hope that some of you at least can sort of learn something from this. You know, it's very easy for us to take things personally. And as a game dev, you have to know when people are not trying to attack you, but they are really just trying to help you out and giving advice on what they personally like and don't like. You do not always have to agree with them on that, and that's fine. That's how we have so many different games that play different and look different, because not all of us see eye to eye, and I think that's good. The more differing opinions we have, the more ideas, the more arguments, and not all arguments are bad. I think some arguments can grow a lot of healthy, good things for a community. The more things that can sprout out from it that will continue to allow the community to prosper and grow and allow more unique games to come out. I want those people to understand we are here for you, that we are not trying to attack you. I know that I have written reviews, not publicly on this channel, but in servers and things like that. I've written reviews that perhaps have come off a little mean-spirited, and I am fully willing 100% to admit that. But I do want those people to understand that ultimately I'm just trying to help those people, and that any person who reviews your game is trying to help you as well. Now, I fully understand that we have those moments where some idiot just says this game sucks and they just leave it as that. That is a piece of criticism that you just shouldn't take to heart personally, even if you have spent a very long time on that game. That is an example of a situation where you just should not care. It's a completely random stranger. They mean nothing to you. You don't know anything about them. They don't know anything about you as a person, and it should just be left as that. I'm sorry that I've sort of rambled on here and there for like the last 35 minutes. I promise the next one will probably be a little bit more meticulous on how I plan it, but I feel like if I didn't record and do this video now, that I was going to completely forget to do it and it was going to slip my mind. I hope that this teaches you guys something about just trying to keep your emotions in check when it comes to game development. I really hope that this serves as, a piece of inspirational advice on how to take critiquing and how to take game developing a little bit more seriously. If you've really stayed here this long, I really just want to say thank you. I am working a little bit on the next video. It's going to be a while. I've just got back from a 1-week long cruise, but I've been very sick with COVID lately, so I just have not been in the mood to really play or do much of anything. I will try to get some work done on the SL video soon, and do let me know if you guys are interested in videos that are more in line with this topic. And again, I apologize for this being a very rushed, probably sloppy, unedited video, but I hope you all can learn something from it. Thank you.